Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick and today guys we're going to be jumping down into the world of Cardano, reviewing what's been going on most recently and what we think is likely to happen next. As I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, smash that like button, really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. If you haven't yet joined us in Discord, check it out, linked in the description down below. It's a fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. It's completely free and I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there, so why not go ahead and check it out. Right, let's jump right down into this one. I'm just going to bring this chart up here. I do keep track of when I put the videos out to hold myself accountable for the things that I say on these videos, right? So we can see here, how well or not so good the videos come across. So let's just kind of review. The last video that I put out was titled Drop Coming, and it wasn't well placed because obviously we have moved up quite significantly further than maybe I was expecting during that video. So it wasn't to talk about an immediate drop, but it was to kind of talk about the fact that we were expecting a move to the downside to happen, and we have moved up quite a bit. So this one's not very well placed, but all the other ones all seem to be pretty much aligned to the price action of what is going on here. So I've drawn in another line for today's video. I've put my little arrow on here, and so therefore we'll see how this one plays out, right? We'll see how the data, or at least what the charts are showing me, and I'll see, and I'll put the thumbnail on, and we'll see how this one tracks as well. So I like to do this just to make sure that we hold myself accountable for the things that are being said, but also debunk a lot of the noise that you see in the comment sections and people saying that they do the opposite. Well, they wouldn't be doing very well if they were doing the opposite, but nonetheless, I digress. Let's jump right down into this, right? So what we'll do is we'll start things off with some Elliott wave theory. We're not going to look at the hourly chart because I am recording this a fair few hours in advance. So I'm going to stay on 4 hours or above. That should hopefully mean that I'm not going to get skewed out by some micro movements, and hopefully things are still current when this video goes live. So one first thing that we need to acknowledge here is that we did have this move to the upside, okay, and we had our move coming down during the 27th, which we can see right in here. And that's when the last video went out, and we're kind of looking at this and we're thinking there was a little bit further to go to the downside before we move on up here. Okay, so we can see that we had this corrective structure. So let's go ahead and review that right now. Okay, so in here we can see and we can acknowledge that we have, if I just move that over there for a second, we have this high, we rallied up to this one here, and we can see that we pulled down a little bit deeper than we would normally, right? We'd normally be between 1 and 1.236. And this is why we were thinking about a move up and then a continued move to the downside. However, we did just rally straight up here. So again, it is what it is. And we can see that we didn't go down lower than the 1.382, but we did come down a little bit deeper than the 1.272. So ultimately, from a fib level point of view, it was a little bit unusual to see this one, but it is what it is, and we can mark this up as 3 waves now. We could also take a look at the sub count in here as well, and we can also see, what was going on there, because that one fell short, and you can kind of see this resting on that 702 and just closing above that 618. So a bit unusual in how that progressed down here, but I think the market just generally turned and it basically just dragged up ADA here. But we'll go is to keep things nice and simple and keep this video moving on, we'll just mark it up as 3. Even though that we do know that there's some moves going on inside here as well. If we really wanted to, we could probably argue that there is something in a there's probably a WXYXZ if we really wanted to kind of draw that out as such as well. But I'll leave it like this for now for the simplicity of it all. Let's now address what's going on here. So ultimately, what's really interesting about this is a big reset in the middle that now makes us look like we are going to the upside here in a pretty meaningful way. And like I usually say on most of the Bitcoin videos, if you're familiar, if you haven't already checked those out, you should probably check those out. But we say when we have these lower highs and lower lows, they have a tendency to break upwards, right? And we can see one right in here as well. Nothing terribly too unusual about this. It is pretty much a standard kind of corrective structure in there, 1, 2, and 3, or A, B, and C. So we can see that playing out quite nicely. Now that corrective structure in the middle here allows us to look at this as a zigzag, which means we still have room to the upside, but I'm not that hopeful. I think this is going to fall short of what we typically would see. So we would typically see this thing up here at about 42.79 cent through to about 44.3. I don't think it's going to push that far though. If we take a look down here in the bottom right, you can see that we're heavily overbought on these time frames, the weekly, daily, 8 hourly, and almost on the 4 hour. You can see that the 4 hour, the chart that we're on right now, is almost overbought along with the hourly. So it does look like a big reversal is about to happen here for Cardano. So we've got a good run, and we can probably try our best to push up a little bit more towards the 42 cent, but I think we're really, really struggling here. You can see that this is a previous area of resistance or a lot of consolidation. This up here, this yellow box area, this is, if I can grab hold of my, that's not it. Let me get hold of the actual label, this one right here. This is our supply zone. So basically this is where sellers do want to be selling. So although it does look like we have to push up here, typically like we would go up a little bit further, I don't think it is something that we can guarantee at this stage. I'll be very, very nervous at this point about thinking pushing us higher towards that kind of 42, 44 cent range. Possible, yes. Probable, not so sure at this point in time. So I'll leave this target on there so that we can see, but just note that I would expect reversal really from anywhere from where we are right now downwards. Okay, so just be aware of that. Ultimately, our minimum expectations have been met. Okay, that would have been already where we are right now. We don't have to go up higher, just typically we would expect it to do so. Okay, and all of that there would actually allow us to then take a look at this thing as a bigger corrective structure from down here at our low of 29.76 over to this recent low over here that we had on the 27th. If I go ahead and pull this over to make sure that I get this right on the wick there, you can see that typically we would expect this move to come to about 43.75, maybe up to 46.54, and you can see that that does coincide with this last little push to the upside. All in all, from an Elliott wave theory point of view, what we're talking about here is a move that looks like this. Okay, so we're looking at a bigger corrective structure just taking us and dragging us up into those higher ranges. But as I said, minimum expectation has been met across the board, and we don't have to go up any higher than we already have. And so just bear that in mind. Everything is becoming very exhausted on these higher time frames, and the lower ones are not looking overly great either. So let's go ahead and jump on over into smart money concepts. So if Elliott wave theory tells us there's a little bit of a push to the upside, what does smart money concepts tell us? Is it conforming to Elliott wave theory, or is it telling us that actually a reversal is likely? And actually taking a look at this on the face of it, I'd say reversal is likely. So the thing that we can look at here is that we do have this area. Let me go ahead and move that out of the way. It's a strong high, which basically means we're unlikely to pierce up higher than this. For record, that is at 42.13. So we can see that it is a little bit of a push up here, a little bit higher, but it's a strong high. Likelihood is that this is going to be major resistance for us. Now, that's not the only problem that we're facing. Right now, you can see this little red order block right here, or this little red block right here. This is an internal order block, and this is red, indicating this is where sellers are. So looking to kind of create some pressure here for selling, taking the price action down from here. Okay, so it's not looking positive at that level either. So not only do we have the strong high, we also have an order block here indicating that we are likely to see downward pressure. Good news is there is a little internal order block here for buyers, so we could see a small drop before maybe a run upwards. It'd be interesting to kind of see how that plays out. Equilibrium, obviously we're above that, which is positive for now, but a retest is highly likely at some point, unless of course we continue to rally up and we break the structure to the upside. We are bearish. We turn bearish over here. This happened on the 3rd of March. Okay, so we saw this characterization change from bullish to bearish, and that hasn't been broken. The only way to break that is of course to go up higher than the strong high at the moment. Possible, yes, but at the moment as the data stands for smart money concepts is indicating to us that we are still in a bearish state at the moment. And it's not too unusual to see a retracement after you have this change of characterization. You change the character, you cool off, and then you continue going down and you continue to break the structures to the downside. Okay, we do have a weak low that's indicated down here. It's hard to see, but you can kind of see this little block down here. This is your discounted range, and this is a weak low, basically indicating that is likely to get broken to the downside at some point. So all in all, I would say that smart money concepts is giving us the bearish end of the stick here, whereas Elliott wave theory is giving it a little bit too positive maybe. But it's interesting when you put the two things together to say we've met our minimum expectations on our moves upwards, we're hitting these resistance lines and resistances up here higher in the price chart according to smart money concepts. We can see that there is this fair value gap down at the bottom, the imbalance in the order book. So coming down here, filling that out would be a nice neat way of kind of looking at Cardano's ADA. Now, as we come up into our daily time frame, what do we see? And from our daily time frame, what's really interesting is the structures that have appeared here, right? So we had this low, which it does look pretty solid at the moment. This is basically 23.92 cent, right? And we have got the high at 44 cent. What's actually going on here, if we really just kind of like dumb it down and make it as simple as possible, is we're in a ranging market. We're bouncing between these two areas. Although this area is very, very broad, right? 23 cent to 44 cent. It's hard to think of that as a ranging market, but you know, essentially until one of those lines is broken, we are in two major states of play. One is bearish and one is bullish, right? And these two things are both technically viable until one is proven otherwise. So what I mean by this is that we have this move here taking us down, okay, and that's the bearish state of play. And then we have the same but in reverse, which is essentially a bullish state of play going up like this, right? So both of these are technically possible until one is proven or disproven, I should say. So yeah, at the moment, that's kind of where that sits. Now, from this daily standpoint, we should be very nervous to the fact that we are heavily overbought. This is important to acknowledge because where we were previously was in a not so overbought state, and we still slipped massively to the downside. We're heavily overbought not only on the daily time frame, but also the weekly time frame. So we know that they're exhausting the amount of buying pressure that is occurring. We can also check this with the volume profiles and things like that that are going on. We can, of course, see that volumes have been not as big as they were previously. If I zoom out further, you can really see actually how small these volume profiles are versus where they were previously. Now, if I throw on, I don't know if I've got it on here. Can I? No, I haven't. I thought I had it on this chart, which I don't. I think it's on this one. Yeah, this one here. So if I throw this to the daily, we'll just give this some time to load up here. We can really see that there's a lot of volume right in the midsection, but as we start to push up higher, there isn't terribly too much volume actually operating here for Cardano's ADA. Likewise, down on the lower side, right, if we were to come down and break those existing lows on the daily, which I do think is something that we have to do considering we have a 5-wave drop here. So we shouldn't really be pushing higher than 42 cent because that would break our structure. But like I said, we can still have an irregular flat there. So you know, it's one of those. We can see what happens and then adjust the counts in the right direction as we need to, as more data becomes available. But as you can kind of see, the major volume outside of this little gap down here really starts to form right at around 25 cent. So we can acknowledge that there are some interesting zones that we have to retrace down to, possibly around 31 cent from our existing highs. So if I come back over to our chart here and we start thinking about what's the probabilities of a move to the downside, I think they're actually reasonably high. Not only do we see a bearish state of play with smart money concepts, we've met all the minimum expectations when it comes to what is going on from an Elliott wave theory point of view, and essentially our stochastic RSIs are incredibly high and overbought territory, which basically does indicate that we're likely to start to see people taking profits and starting to see price calling off and going to the downside. So all in all, I do think that there's a high probability of a move down, but do be cautious. We do have those technical requirements a little bit higher on the Elliott wave theory side of things, but everything else to me looks more bearish than bullish. So that's where I kind of sit with this one. Let me know what your thoughts are on ADA in the comments down below. Really interested to kind of canvas people's thoughts and opinions on whether they think Cardano is going to be breaking higher than 44 cent on the short term, or whether or not they are looking at more lower prices for Cardano's ADA. Let me know in the comments below. If you found this useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Don't forget to join us down in Discord, and guys, I'll catch you all in the next one.
We are not financial advisors, and none of what we have communicated verbally or in writing here should be considered as financial advice. It is not. Do your own research before investing in any digital asset or affiliate offers, and understand that investing in any crypto is risky. If you do, you need to be prepared to lose your entire investment. This video is for information and entertainment purposes only. All our videos are strictly personal opinions. Please make sure you do your own research and never take our opinions for financial guidance. There are multiple strategies, and not all strategies fit all people. Our videos are not financial advice.